matched up to $50,000. Go now to j6support.com and
get on.
Good evening, America. Happy Tuesday, and welcome to the latest edition of Just the News, No Noise. I'm your host, John Solomon, reporting as always from the nation's capital today. My amazing colleague, Amanda Head, she's out on assignment, actually reporting over at the White House. She'll be back tomorrow. Hopefully she'll have some good scoops to go along with that. Now, we'll have a scoop for you tonight. We've got another bombshell story to start the show off with. President Donald Trump and his supporters were targeted by 4 consecutive FBI codename counterintelligence investigations over the last decade. Now, I want that to sink in. From the moment President Trump secured the nomination in the summer of 2016 to the moment he raised his hand for his second inauguration in January 2025, he was subjected to 4 straight consecutive counterintelligence and probes, each of them designed to try to find some form of criminality against him. Each of them, or in total, they subjected hundreds of innocent Americans to privacy-invading tactics, things like their phone records being taken, grand jury subpoenas, extraordinary developments and intrusions on their everyday life. And the FBI, before Kash Patel came in, essentially treated the man twice elected president as a national security threat. That's what a counterintelligence investigation is. That means for almost the first 9 years of his career, the FBI only saw Donald Trump as a potential threat to national security. Those are according to documents and interviews we conducted here at Just the News over the last 6 months. Director Patel has personally led the effort to find these 4 operations. Here are the 4 code names. Crossfire Hurricane, you know that one well. That's about Russia collusion, now debunked. Round River, one you probably never heard of until today. That's the one that looked at people who dared to look at Hunter Biden and treated them as though they were a national security threat. Russian disinformation artists. I have a funny feeling I'll be in those files. Plasmic Echo, that's the one that took Kash Patel's and Susie Wiles' phone records before they became FBI director and White House chief of staff. There's also an allegation that the FBI in that investigation might have looked at or listened in on one of Susie Wiles' conversations with her lawyer. And then the last one that we've talked a lot about on the show the last few months since we first broke it, Arctic Frost, an investigation that looked at the president and his supporters' efforts to submit alternative electors to the Senate after the 2020 election as a criminal conspiracy, even though John F. Kennedy and a candidate all the way back in 1876 did the exact same thing, and they never got prosecuted. In fact, they were deemed to just be protesting as they're allowed to before the government, but in Donald Trump's case, the FBI viewed it as criminal. Those are the far-reaching dragnet investigations that really basically targeted the president for the majority of his political career. One of the things we're learning, a lot of the information that predicated those investigations may have been based on false, misleading, or uncorroborated justifications. That's what we're learning, that they didn't have the goods to really justify the opening of the investigation. That's what John Durham said about Crossfire Hurricane. We're starting to see that is the case in these other investigations as well. Now, why were these things so secret for so long? Why didn't we know about them before today? Because the old FBI under Chris Wray hid these files even from most of their FBI agents. They were marked prohibited access, meaning that the FBI leadership controlled access to them very carefully, and they were kept off the radar. In fact, so far off the radar that Kash Patel didn't find them when he first came in. He wasn't told about them when he first came in. How did he learn about them? Because whistleblowers have come forward inside his agency, or in some cases going to Congress. People like Senator Chuck Grassley, the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee. That's how they learned about all of these files. Some of them were only found in the last few months. And when I say people were targeted, I just give you one example. Documents that we actually saw, correspondence between a person who served in President Trump's first administration, was an advisor in the 24 campaign, and in between dared to make a documentary movie about Hunter Biden and his exploits in Ukraine. He was subjected to a criminal investigation. And one of the things that we learned when you see the FBI documents that we made public this morning His emails in which he was giving private advice to the 2024 Trump campaign, they were obtained by the FBI. Raises a lot of concerns, right? A lot of the people who were targeted in these investigations, according to the records that we reviewed, were people who are called special circumstances subjects, meaning they had certain protections: a journalist, First Amendment protection, a congressman or their staff, the separation of powers in Congress and in the Constitution, lawyers, the attorney-client privilege, and yet they all were targeted in these 4 investigations. We're going to have a whole lot more of that over the course of the next few days and over the next few weeks. We expect some of these files to be declassified later this month or early in April, and I guarantee you we're going to be all over them when they come out. Now, we're going to get to our first guest in a second, Republican Congresswoman Claudia Tenney from New York. But first, I want to get to one more headline. Just a little while ago, President Trump giving an update in the operations against Iran, saying today the U.S. military destroyed 10 mine-laying ships that Iran had. He said they were dormant. They weren't actually going on, but the president took care of them anyways. That is one of the many things that we're keeping a close eye on over at justthenews.com. Go check out the breaking headlines there. We got you covered all night long. All right, as I promised, joining us from the great state of New York, actually she's in Florida at the Republican Leadership Conference, Congresswoman Claudia Tenney. Congresswoman, great to have you on the show.
Always great to be on. You are always breaking news. It's incredible.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that we're just starting to get visibility on. I mean, when you step back and you realize that the FBI considered the man that the American people twice elected president to be a counterintelligence threat the entire time he was in office, out of office, back in office, what's your first reaction?
You know, this is incredible. They will do anything and everything to stop Donald Trump. We just can see today the Democrats have Trump derangement syndrome. They will do anything. They'll support illegal immigrants, criminal illegal immigrants. They'll support anyone, even over the American people, just as long as it's a Trump initiative or a Trump policy. It doesn't matter how good it is. It doesn't matter how common sense it is. It doesn't matter that the American people support it because Donald Trump might be advancing that issue. They're against it. And it just shows the Democrats are so desperate. They will do anything and everything, including undermining our very powerful intelligence agencies and trying to surveil President Trump, anyone affiliated with, anyone who supports him. I mean, this is just incredible, especially, you know, I'm looking at when you're talking about the Round River, I'm thinking, right. I talked about Hunter Biden nonstop. Look at Miranda Devine. She wrote a book. Did. There's been so much, and you've done so much. I mean, this Hunter Biden story is really horrible. I serve on the Ways and Means Committee. We had the whistleblowers in on this issue. We saw that they were slow walking this. They were trying to avoid the statute of limitations. You know, the U.S. attorney in Delaware was doing everything they could because they knew he was guilty. They knew it was wrong. And of course, President Biden, you know, pardoned his own son. And where are we now? No one's held accountable after all the, you know, terrible things that went on between Hunter Biden enriching himself, Joe Biden knowing about it, the family enriching themselves at the expense of the American people. And here we are, our own intelligence agencies there to protect us against our enemies are actually covering up for Joe Biden and trying to indict and destroy President Trump, a very popular president who, by the way, won even bigger in his third reelection, he would say, in 2024.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's just extraordinary the effort that was put into it and the dragnet that people were swept up into. We know just in Arctic Frost 400, when you take the 3 investigations, it looks like north of 500, 600 people are ultimately targeted in these various investigations. How do they get their lives back? How do they get their reputations back like Carter Page? How do they get some recompense for the fact that their civil liberties or their privacy or their Fourth Amendment rights might have been invaded by this effort to get Donald Trump?
Well, as you see, some of them have pursued legal means and are going to be rewarded with some kind of money, but does that really ever ultimately help that Carter Page is going to be known to be swept up in this, you know, guy who was innocent, who they tried to frame? By the way, this all started, that particular incident, you know, the Crossfire Hurricane, that started under the Obama administration. I think the Obama administration, including President Obama, you've talked about it, you know, what did they know? Of course they knew about this. They were crafting this, you know, against Donald Trump before he even got into office. They were trying to prevent him from getting elected, just as they were trying to prevent him from getting elected in 2020, even using social media. You know, remember when X was not owned, when it was Twitter, not owned by Elon Musk? and they were trying to prevent anything that had to do with the Hunter Biden story and the laptop. Supposedly it was a classic Russian disinformation. 51 former intelligence agents said this is classic Russian disinformation, knowing it was true and that it was accurate. And think about what they've done to undermine our integrity. The American people have no trust in these agencies, and yet I serve on the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. We're trying to restore that. We're trying to restore it through Pash Patel. We have Tulsi Gabbard, who's now our Director of National Intelligence. We're trying to restore the integrity of the CIA. Now with John Ratcliffe heading up that agency, and this is what we're going to have to uncover. It's going to be an ugly process to clear out a lot of this, very corrupt people who are willing to undermine their own oaths of office, willing to undermine the United States, to target American citizens. Isn't that what we're supposed to be protecting?
Yeah, it is a jaw dropper. Right now, there's an opportunity to evaluate or renew the Section 720 authority that allows FBI to go through phone records and find connections. Is there any talk about making changes, or is that just get another rubber stamp for another year?
Well, I wouldn't call it a rubber stamp because I serve on the committee, and it's interesting. This is a really important issue. The White House has asked us to issue an 18-month clean extension because there were over 56 reforms put into the last FISA. Remember, everything that happened to President Trump was FISA. It wasn't the 702 program. So what we're trying to do is show that we need to renew this program because, think about it. I come from the state of New York. The largest terrorist attack in our nation's history hit New York because, as the 9/11
this week.
the 9/11 Commission concluded, had we had something like FISA, a good FISA, a bolstered FISA, which really protected our Fourth Amendment rights, but also made sure that we gave our police the opportunity to know when we had people who were not American citizens, about to commit dangerous crimes like 9/11, we could actually make sure we prevented those things. New York State, by the way, passed a law in 2019, post 9/11, obviously, that made it even more difficult for our police to work together. But you still have to have those protections, and those 56 new reforms are in there in the FISA law. And President Trump recognizes we need some more time to make sure they're helping. But they are helping. They are making it more, making us more, secure, and also getting a cleaner FBI and less corruption that we're seeing. But that takes time to root that out. So we're looking at where that goes. And I'll tell you right now, it's a tough issue because it's hard to explain. But I totally understand why the American people do not trust our intelligence agencies, and they're squarely at fault for what they've done in abusing this process and abusing President Trump and so many caught in that sphere, that we do have to make sure those reforms are solid or working, and we have to amend them. But remember, that is all part of the FISA program. The 702 program has been vital in protecting a lot of our we could have many more terrorist attacks and many more dangerous people if it weren't for the 702 program. And so we have to be able to differentiate that. But you know what I do, John? I try to explain this to my voters and understand that I'm still explaining every single vote that I take on the House floor. It's Tenney, TENNEY.house.gov. I'm still the only member of Congress that explains in detail all the votes that I take so that the American people understand that we have to preserve this great gift that we've been given, our Constitution, which is about protecting freedom, but it's also about security. And we're always balancing maximizing freedom while maintaining law, rule of law, and security. And we have a Bill of Rights. That's why we passed it. Why New York, an original colony, why our founders believed we needed a Bill of Rights to protect us from tyranny. And we're making sure we're bolstering the Fourth Amendment and making sure that we're living up to it. And remember, these are so nuanced. And a little bit, not to get into the weeds with you, but I love the Federalist paper. I love our history. We're at our 250th anniversary. I just went to an event actually that talks about, the Declaration of Independence. It was a great group down here in Florida. It was called the most exotic, the most harsh breakup letter in history. We told the British we're down with you. Really great dialogue. But remember, these are things that are really important. But our founders were very wise. They knew we needed to protect our interests, our security, our rule of law, but they also knew we need to maximize freedom. So our Bill of Rights is very nuanced, but those are things that we need to explain. That's why I encourage every other member to join with me to explain these things so people understand and don't get confused sometimes by media. And I'll be putting a statement out on FISA 702 FISA and 702 and the difference and what the President Trump is doing on that.
Yeah, there have been a lot of changes in the last couple of years, and that's an important part. Plus, it's under new management, which also makes a difference.
Yes, big difference. But we need to make it secure, because we don't. In case it becomes under bad management again. We want to make sure it's resilient.
Yeah, that's the key. Yeah, having that long-lasting impact. Before we let you go, you've been down in Florida with the leadership of the Republican House caucus. Lots of big ideas floating around. A lot of people think you head into a midterm, you kind of coast. This doesn't feel like a Republican Party looking to coast. It looks like more big ideas ahead. Tell us what you think could be some of the surprises for the second half of this year.
I'm not sure they're going to be surprises, but I formed the Election Integrity Caucus. I think that's how I got to know you. President Trump is very, very adamant about getting the Save America Act on. It's something I believe in so much. I mean, only citizens can vote, proving that you have an ID and that you're actually able to vote. Those are simple, basic things that 95% of Republicans support and over 70% of Democrats support. It's a no-brainer, but for whatever reason, the Democrats are worried about that. But leave it to Hakeem Jeffries, to say, well, we don't want ICE anywhere near our election sites. Well, you're just admitting. Actually, what we're trying to say is you brought these millions of people in that aren't citizens to vote in our elections, and an ID would actually kind of flush them out and say, you're not a citizen yet. You can't vote in our elections unless you prove ID and then prove that you're a citizen. So I think the Democrats are kind of putting a hole in their own argument.
Yeah, they are. And by the way, they're flying into an 85% win, that 85% of Americans want this to happen. So they're flying into a very strong wind, political wind in this case. Congresswoman, always great to have you on the show. We always get some straight talk. And I love the fact that you explained every one of your votes. That is deeply appreciated by anyone who's a constituent. Great to have you on today. That's pretty cool. All right, folks, quick commercial break. When we come back, we've got the Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights, Harmeet Dillon. She oversees election integrity and a lot of the issues that are at the heart of the FBI abuses. We're going to have her next right after the commercial. Hey folks, this episode is brought to you by Native Path Grass-Fed Collagen for better bones, joints, skin, hair, and nails. Here's something that genuinely surprised me. Calcium supplements, the ones millions of people take for bone health, may not be doing much at all because bones are 90% collagen, not calcium. Without the collagen scaffold to attach to, calcium has nowhere to go. That's where today's sponsor comes in. After 30, our bodies produce 1 to 2% less collagen every single year. That's the protein that keeps our bones dense, our joints cushioned, and of course our skin firm. By age 60, like me, most people have lost half their collagen, and it's nearly impossible to get it back through diet alone because it lives in the parts of the animal we don't eat: the bones, the cartilage, the tendons. Native Path Grass-Fed Collagen is a clean, grass-fed type 1 and 3 collagen that dissolves completely in coffee or water. No taste, no clumping. Thousands of customers report less joint pain, stronger nails, younger looking skin, better sleep, and even improved bone density scans. To try it risk-free with a 365-day money-back guarantee, head to getnativepath.com/justnews. That's getnativepath.com/justnews.
Real America's Voice is growing, and now it's all in one place. Introducing the new and improved RAV app, built for access, community, and choice, not paywalls. Here's the key. RAV is still free to watch. No sign-in, no membership required. Your favorite live streams, breaking coverage, and video on demand are all right there. Free, just like always.
For the War Room Posse, we have to be a force multiplier on this. We have to stick the landing.
In the White House, in the Oval Office, you're crushing it, my friend.
And if you want more, the members section is your backstage pass. Get exclusive behind-the-scenes photos and videos, insider moments from the studio and the field, and early access to new content before it goes public. Members can also unlock special experiences like virtual meet and greets, member-only auctions, and select event access, plus commercial-free viewing of certain shows inside the app. It's not just an app, it's a community. Download the RAV app today. Find it in the App Store and Google Play. At Real America's Voice, we know that you want to be a part of something bigger. That's why we've teamed up with AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens. to build a real community of folks who care about faith and our country's future.
There is no force on earth that can stop us from saving our country.
Want to be a part of this movement? It's easy. Just scan the QR code on your screen right now. That's right. Grab your phone and scan the QR code to join the AMAC and Real America's Voice family today. By scanning the QR code, you'll unlock exclusive content, connect with like-minded Americans, and be first in line for events that celebrate our shared values. So don't wait. Scan the QR code. Join us today and become part of a community that stands for faith, family, and freedom.
Real rights, they come from God.
With AMAC and Real America's Voice. Go ahead, scan the QR code now.
Welcome back, everybody. We got a real treat for you. The woman who has overseen, I think, one of the most significant election integrity efforts in my entire time in Washington, getting voter rolls that were long dirty, long overdue for updates, getting them clean and ready for the 26th election. That is something that benefits everyone, whether you're a Republican, Democrat, Independent. She's the Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights at the Justice Department, Harmeet Dillon. She joins us right now. Harmeet, great to have you here.
Thanks for having me, John. It's wonderful to be here in person.
It's an honor to have you here. Amanda's going to be bummed that she missed you today. She's out at the White House. But I want to start with the success we have, because we hear, all right, motions were taken, lawsuits were taken, there are consent decrees going on. You made a lot of states do something they haven't done in a long time. Bring us up to speed on the progress.
Well, I'm happy to say that we've either reached a settlement with every state that has voter rolls, or we are in litigation with them. And so far we have voluntary compliance with 16 jurisdictions that have either just given us their voter rolls in response to our data requests, or they've signed memorandum of understanding and then given us their voter rolls. The latest one was just uploaded last Friday.
Wow.
And then we are in litigation with 29 jurisdictions and the District of Columbia, and North Dakota has a kind of strange system where it doesn't have like static voter rolls.
Right.
And so, this is a really important project for election integrity, and it's never been done by the DOJ before. And so people have to understand the number of hoops we have to jump through and their sensitivities. I've sued red states and blue states alike in our wave of lawsuits last week with 5 states that had refused to comply. They include 4 Republican majority states: Oklahoma, Kentucky, West Virginia, and I'm blanking on the other one, and then New Jersey, of course, and so Utah is the 4th one. So it's interesting. Some secretaries of state say, okay, well, I'm a scaredy cat. I need a judge to tell me to give it to you, and then I'll give it to you. Some say we have state data privacy laws, which they know because they're lawyers, are subject to federal supremacy. So they're and also, we have to keep Social Security numbers private from the federal government. The federal government issues those Social Security numbers, and finally, some of these states, some of these red and blue states, voluntarily hand over their roles to ERIC and other groups like that, but not the government. And so we want every American citizen to feel confident in voting and feel confident in the outcome of that election, and that is why we're undertaking this massive project.
Well, a lot of people ask, all right, so you get the voter rolls, you're just going to look through and make sure that they're compliant with federal law. That's really the goal. And if you find a problem, you're just going to alert the states to fix it, right?
Yeah, that's the purpose of this exercise. So what we are finding, and what some states which are uploading their voter rolls voluntarily, which they can now do without charge, they used to have to pay DHS to do this. We're finding tens of thousands of non-citizens on the voter rolls. Hundreds of thousands of dead people on the voter rolls, and duplicate registrations between states. And what's happened in the past, you may ask, why don't states clean it up themselves? Well, sometimes it's just inefficiency, but more times it's actually states wanting to clean up their voter rolls, and the Mark Eliases of the world and even the DOJ suing them to stop them from cleaning up their own voter rolls. And so I don't blame states in a way, because it's whiplash. Suddenly the federal government is saying, please do your jobs. Right. A year ago, they were saying, don't do your jobs. Yeah. And so, but that's the law of the land, and Congress passed those laws, and as long as that's my statutory mandate, that's what we're going to do. Yeah, no, it's an impressive thing. And when you say tens of thousands of non-citizens made the voter rolls, people say, well, we keep being told there's no problem there. That's a problem, because some of those people, like this one person got indicted this week, sometimes they get to vote. And for every person that we've seen a story about, I know of dozens and dozens more cases, and U.S. attorneys' offices are wanting to bring these cases, but we have, of course, interference with the very appointment of these U.S. attorneys at the political level. So that's above my pay grade, but it's really frustrating that we're being prevented from doing our job sometimes at the DOJ at the local level.
14 months in, there aren't top line prosecutors in many of these places.
I mean, I can tell you your executive branch is working very hard here.
Yeah. No, you guys are. There's no doubt about it. All right. Earlier last month, we had a raid in Georgia. We know what the FBI said. The reason was there was a grand jury subpoena confirmed by the Arizona State Senate President yesterday in Maricopa County. The FBI affidavit, I think, did an education service to a lot of people. People, I don't think, understand that if you administer your election for a federal election and you don't follow your state laws, and that's intentional, you do it intentionally, it actually becomes a federal offense. That's sort of what's going on here. Right? You're trying to make sure that people are following the rules that they told their voters they would follow.
Well, that's right. And, I can't talk about the details of these matters. And I will say that my jurisdiction statutorily is civil in nature. And so my colleagues, after we've tried to go through the front door and get these materials voluntarily, if they're not complying to help them do their jobs correctly, then it may become criminal in nature, or at least certainly grand juries have agreed with the request for this information. And so, then we're going to look at them, and the FBI is doing their investigative work to see what they find, and then ultimately that may come back to some component of DOJ to bring charges or pursue that. But I can say, as a lawyer who taking off my government hat and putting on my former political hat, I was on the ground in the last two election cycles in 2022 and 2024 in Arizona, in Maricopa County specifically. And you don't know whether it's incompetence or deliberate malfeasance, but either way, it is a shambolic, bleep word show of a election process that leaves many citizens feeling like they shouldn't vote because they see the wrong paper being loaded. They see ballots being transported without proper security under state law. And then they see unclean voter rolls that are in violation of our federal election laws. And so we want every citizen to have the same outcome in the elections of our country as citizens in Iraq had when they vote,
We certainly could hit that. We should be able to hit that mark pretty easy. But it's been the last 10 years. And, I went back 15 years in newspaper clips. And it's interesting. Back in 2012 and 14 and 16, the Democrats were claiming Maricopa County was a problem. And then the Republicans started saying it. And the Democrats suddenly defended the bad behavior that they used to like. Or used to protest. It does seem like this is a moment where we can make really significant changes. Last night, we have got a hold of this report that the House Administration Committee said. It was an observer report. They went to a warehouse called Runbeck, and they found live ballots and blank ballots side by side in a warehouse. I said, that's really strange. By the way, no government officials or observers. They actually crashed the place. When you see something like that, that doesn't sound like a good practice.
It's a horrible practice, and Runbeck, of course, runs the elections in Maricopa County. And and many other places. It's a company that does that. And there's state laws that say, for example, when ballots are transported from a voting place to the central count area, they have to be like police escorts, and they should be treated like gold. They should be treated like Fort Knox. And they're not. They're treated like like throwaway shoppers. They're treated like those coupons you get for your grocery store, and that's outrageous. It's the most precious of our civil rights, and it should be treated as such.
Yeah, it's such an important moment. I think people are listening like, wait, we got this bad, but we did get this bad over time. It's a remarkable thing. I want to turn to one other thing. I often go back and refer to this extraordinary interview a few months ago, but people look at the weaponization era and they say, well, a lot of people's civil liberties just got violated. I mean, their privacy. Heck, if the reports are true, the White House Chief of Staff and the current FBI Director had their phone records rummaged through by the FBI. When you look at where we are, just what's in the public domain, is there a strong case to be made that civil liberties are violated and that it could be criminal in nature?
Well, it could be. A lot of the stuff has been concealed. I think it's come out there that FBI has found things and restricted access, prohibited access. Things have been dumped and shoved and mislabeled deliberately and concealed. And that itself is, of course, obstruction of justice. And so pulling on that thread and untangling it and getting to the bottom of it is a challenge. And you see a lot of frustration online, John. I get it just about every time I announce something that my office has done almost daily or sometimes more than once a day.
Definitely.
Where the arrests are, we don't believe it anymore. I mean, we have due process in our country, and our standard is a high one. And so you're not going to have arrests at the front end. The arrests happen at the back end of an investigation, not at the front end of that. So we are diligently working together as a huge DOJ with, tens of thousands of employees nationally and working on these issues. But justice must be served in these circumstances.
You feel it will be?
I do feel it will be. I personally am committed to it in whatever small part I can play. Civil Rights Division investigates conspiracies against civil rights. We've brought some criminal charges in that regard. You've seen that in Minnesota, and you will see more of those cases. And so you have a team of, I think, the most zealous advocates for liberty at the DOJ, and I'm really proud to be a small part of Pam Bondi's team with Todd Blanche and others who are doing a great job.
They're hitting their stride. I talked to a whistleblower the other day. He said it took 10 years for the weaponized government to do all the things it did. It's going to take us a little time to unravel, particularly when it's hidden.
Let me tell you something. I learned recently from the reports about Arctic frost that my law firm was targeted.
You were targeted?
Years ago.
Yeah.
No one told us. Nope. I never got a notice. Yeah. No one told us that outrageously, there was an attempt to pierce our attorney-client privilege communications with our client and the campaign, the president, the Republican National Committee. So I'm as outraged as anybody about this and as motivated to make sure that these violations of our civil rights should never happen again. And these are the most precious common law rights, the attorney-client privilege, your privacy rights, and they're natural rights as well. People have very casually waived these rights and said everything is, Google has it, it's in the cloud or what have you. No, we have rights to privacy in our country, and that DOJ officials who work in the same building as who worked in the same building as I currently work in, shredded those rights, should be morally offensive to every American, regardless of politics.
You're confident they shredded our rights, aren't you?
I'm very confident. I know it.
You know it.
I believe it. I know it. And I've seen some things that shocked me to the conscience and to my core as a lawyer for more than 3 decades. We have to stop it.
Yeah, well, this will be the moment. We'll know in the next couple of years, I think, what the ultimate outcome, but it is an amazing thing. Meanwhile, one thing we do know, we're going to have a lot cleaner voter rolls than we've ever had in a long time, and that's a big tribute to the work you're doing.
We already do. Let me tell you, when I ask a state for their voter roll, some of them have said to me, Harmeet, let us it's like when you have guests come over, or the cleaning lady come over. Some of us women particularly, we do a little pre-clean because we're embarrassed. There was some pre-cleaning happening before we got those voter rolls, and so the rolls are already cleaner just by our asking for them.
Someone said that you're Jiminy Cricket on the shoulders of a lot of election officials, and I think that's a good thing. So
that's a very flattering way I've been described. I've heard some other things.
Well, that means you're doing your job. Great to have you here. What a great treat. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick commercial break. A lot more next ahead, including a little bit more about what the FBI did. We're going to talk to a former FBI agent who used to go through phone records for a living. He's going to tell us a lot about that right after these messages.
The world doesn't slow down because you're tired. And weakness gets exposed. That's why the best take Go Pills. Born for military performance, built for high-pressure days when your brain has to move faster than the chaos. This is neurotransmitter support, helping your mind fire clean signals so you can process data fast, decide fast, and stay locked in when it matters. Packed with clinically supported ingredients designed to boost cognitive performance so you stay sharp under pressure. The most badass military in the world uses this kind of energy every day. Now you can too. From training to eliminate America's enemies to smoke-checking terrorists, Go Pills keep the mission fueled. Real-world tested by high-level tactical communities, now available to you. Greenlight the beast inside. Pop a Go Pill. Scan the QR code or go to buygopills.com and receive 15% off your entire order. Welcome to Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Your quick look at the powerful stories of faith and freedom, inspiring audiences across the nation. Angel Studios presents.
I'm Bo Davidson with this Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Most people know the biblical story of David, the shepherd boy who fought Goliath and became king. Well, Angel Studios has created a new animated film called David that tells the story of Israel's greatest king.
lost, followed, when I'm looking for the way, when I'm searching for the answer, in the moments I'm afraid. There's a whisper in the wind, and a story in the sky, when I'm looking for a lantern to illuminate the night. If you want the secret of freedom and feeling alive, you gotta follow the light.
Welcome back, America. I'm really excited to have on this next guest. Over my 30-year career, I've chronicled his exploits as one of the most impactful FBI agents of his generation. First, the man who helped prove that Iran was involved in the Khobar Tower attacks, the terror attacks back in 1996, something very relevant today as we prosecute the war against Iran. Later, as a whistleblower to correct the wrongs of the early 9/11 era. And then after that, making sure that the NSA program, the program that went through Americans' phone record under the authority of Congress, was conducted in a way that tried to protect Americans' privacy whenever possible. He's now a retired FBI agent, but one of my favorite guests anytime we bring him on, Bassem Youssef. Bassem, great to have you back on the show.
Thank you, John. It's good to see you as always.
I was thinking of you a lot this last week as I was working on this story that we wrote and broke last night and this morning, because I know the regard you had for Americans' privacy when you oversaw the Communications Analysis Unit. But when you see in these 4 counterintelligence investigations, all targeting President Trump, that there were thousands of assessments and 1,200 people in protected categories were even assessed, obviously they must have been innocent because none of them got charged. What do you see? What happened to the FBI? Did it go off the rails somewhere?
Knowing what I know about the investigative tools that we have, especially with the special compartmented programs, the fact that we are where we are today and that these discoveries, especially in your report that I read with great interest yesterday, to have that many FBI assessments of special interest to targets who are not just the run-of-the-mill target on the street. These are lawmakers and others who need a higher threshold to get the predication to actually start an investigation or an assessment on. That's a staggering number, 127,000 FBI assessments. And as you already mentioned, to think that 48% of those assessments turned into an investigation. And then fast forward to 2025, when all of these, the bulk of them, were dropped because they did not turn up with any intelligence of any value. It tells you that the FBI, unfortunately, during the previous administration, has cast a wide dragnet that got so many people who were not involved in any way. And I hate to use that word, but it's really framing those people for some kind of malfeasance when there really wasn't in the first place.
Yeah, and so no other way to look at it when you look at the body of evidence. And then you look at the fact, right, 4 consecutive counterintelligence investigations targeting the man that the American people twice elected to be president. You go from Crossfire Hurricane, where clearly they had nothing. That's what ultimately John Durham thing. You think after that the FBI would be more careful with Donald Trump, but they double, triple, and quadruple down. How does that happen in a bureau that got exposed on Russia collusion at the beginning of this?
I remember, John, when I worked in the Bureau in field offices and then eventually at FBI headquarters, where I oversaw the Communications Analysis Unit, that there was already a process where you could see that from the highest levels of the FBI, meaning the director's office and the executive assistant directors, that there is a soft recruitment of people of like mind that didn't necessarily meet the requirements for the job, but they were recruited because of their leaning, which was, in fact, very politically motivated.
Wow, that is a scary thing. So you saw this coming. If I remember, at some point, I think you tried to alert the former FBI Director James Comey about some concerns before you left, but didn't take root, did it?
Yes, in fact, that's an interesting thing you just mentioned, John. I had been trying to brief the director, at that time it was Comey, of this special program, the program that was leaked by Snowden, if you remember, in 2012. And the executive assistant director under him was blocking me from briefing him. And I'm the only one that could actually give him a briefing because I am read in on the program and I oversee the program. And that executive assistant director was Andrew McCabe. And it wasn't until by a happenstance the director walked into my office to sort of meet and greet my unit staff. And that's when I alerted him to the fact that I need to talk to him and I had a concern about this particular program. And eventually I went up to see him before I retired, explained to him that the program has some issues and could be misused and abused. And he assured me that the program would take a very good look at it. And then eventually, at that time, the then President Barack Obama gave a press release saying that this is unacceptable, that we will definitely curb the authority of this program, if not shut it down altogether. Fast forward to the end of his tenure, the end of his administration, and to find out that the program was not curbed, but in fact it was expanded. And authority was given to people who had no business in the intel world, such as the then UN ambassador was given access to that program. So this whole thing just smells of pre-planning for something that would be used later.
Wow, really scary stuff when you think about it. Before we let you go, Bassem, when you look at what's now in the public domain, Susie Wiles' phone records taken, Kash Patel's phone records taken, lawyers targeted, maybe free speech delimiters used to justify investigations of people, do you have a concern that the FBI may have violated people's civil liberties in a criminal way?
Yes, I know that. For example, I remember when I went to the academy, that was 1988, one of the things they drilled into us in training is that the FISA in particular and the national security letters, which are the tool that is used for national security, and that is also of interest, the fact that this investigation, these 4 operations were counterintelligence and not criminal. And that is very telling, but that the use or the misuse of FISA or the national security letter can actually put us behind bars. That's what they always reminded us. So here, you know that the system was abused, the programs were misused, and to go after people who they had no predication that there was anything going on, and in fact. This whole thing started with, or one of the investigations started with a debunked Steele dossier. Yeah. So you know from the beginning that the information was inaccurate.
Yeah. Awesome. You remind us of an era when the FBI followed the book and followed the rules. I think Americans yearn to get it back. I think we're maybe on that course, but the first part is getting it all exposed. What a great honor to have you back on the show. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, folks, one of the really great heroes of the FBI did such amazing work and did his job by the book. That's what Americans are asking for again today. All right, coming up next, high blood pressure is the #1 risk factor for mortality. We'll take a look at natural remedies to lower it. More on that right after the commercial break.
The world doesn't slow down because you're tired. And weakness gets exposed. That's why the best take Go Pills. Born for military performance, built for high-pressure days when your brain has to move faster than the chaos. This is neurotransmitter support, helping your mind fire clean signals so you can process data fast, decide fast, and stay locked in when it matters. Packed with clinically supported ingredients designed to boost cognitive performance so you stay sharp under pressure. The most badass military in the world uses this kind of energy every day. Now you can too. From training to eliminate America's enemies to smoke-checking terrorists, Go Pills keep the mission fueled. Real-world tested by high-level tactical communities. Now available to you. Greenlight the beast inside. Pop a Go Pill. Scan the QR code or go to buygopills.com and receive 15% off your entire order. Welcome to Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Your quick look at the powerful stories of faith and freedom, inspiring audiences across the nation. Angel Studios presents.
I'm Bo Davidson with this Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Most people know the biblical story of David, the shepherd boy who fought Goliath and became king. Well, Angel Studios has created a new animated film called David that tells the story of Israel's greatest king.
There's a light I've always followed when I'm looking for the way, when I'm searching for the answer. In the moments I'm afraid, there's a whisper in the wind and a story in the sky. When I'm looking for a lantern to illuminate the night. If you want the secret of freedom and feeling alive, you gotta follow the light.
Welcome back, America. I know this to be true because I've suffered from high blood pressure since I was in my late 20s. It's been a long time, and it's important because it's a silent killer. You don't know it. You don't feel it most times until you go to a doctor one day, and all of a sudden, you have artery damage. You have heart damage. It is really something that sneaks up on you, and it's why it's so important that you keep an eye on it. It's the #1 risk factor for mortality today. We're very lucky to be joined by a great partner. I use this product every day now. I love it. 120 Life. It is such a remarkable thing. It's a superfruit juice, but it naturally helps bring down your blood pressure. In my case, 6 or 7 points on top of my blood pressure medicine. I'm very proud of that. Joining us now, the founder of 120 Life, Ira Antelis. Ira, great to have you back on the show.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's always great to be with you.
I love this product. I've built it into my routine. I even have some of my own recipes where I mix it in with a little of soda and other things to make it taste different every night. It's such an important part now because I realize that there are natural things you can do to bring your blood pressure down beyond the pills that I have to pop in my mouth because my doctor tells me to. I want to start because you had a necessity in creating this product. Tell us why you created 120 Life.
Well, as you can sort of see, my life really has been in music. And I had a health issue, and my blood pressure started going up. And like many, I didn't believe it until like maybe the 3rd or 4th time I asked somebody to measure my blood pressure, at which point I called the doctor, and I went to see him. He happened to be a good friend of mine, and he said, if you don't get this down in 3 weeks, we're going to have to do open heart surgery. It was that simple. And I'm like, well, what is high blood pressure? I knew what could happen from it. And they were almost like, you got to go figure it out. And I started reading about what to eat, what not to eat, just as important, what to drink. And over time, so I went on a salt-free diet, and I did bring my blood pressure down. And I kept reading about things to drink. And with studies, I'm like, wow, pomegranate juice, if you drink it by itself for 2 weeks, should lower your blood pressure. Beets or beet juice lowers your blood pressure. And one day I'm like, if they all have a way to lower your blood pressure individually, if I put them together, would it lower it more? It was that simple. So wow. I had read that if you drank pomegranate juice for 2 weeks, it would lower your blood pressure. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to give people a supply of my juice for 2 weeks. I'd make these big jugs. And I gave it to people. It really, really helped many people. I'm like, wow, there's 120 million people in this country.
Yep.
25 million probably don't even know they have it. There's an audience for this, and I'm like, I'm going to take this to market. That's what happened.
Pretty amazing. It's an amazing story. And for you to think of other people after the crisis you went through is kind of remarkable in and of itself. Now, we live in an era where things are stressful. We're busy all the time. We get bombarded by digital and political, and information's coming at us at the speed of light. You got an economy, you got terrorism, all the different things. And so we're always under stress. Give us a little bit of linear picture of what stress does to your blood pressure and how you may not notice it until it's too late.
Sure. So I coined a phrase called the 4 S's: salt, sleep, sugar, and stress. So when we're talking about stress, if you're under stress, your body produces adrenaline. that adrenaline is going to make your blood pressure go up. And we all have stress. So if you are having a stressful day, as long as the next day or the day after is calm, that's okay. But if you're under stress every day, it is affecting your heart. If your heart is stressed on a daily, weekly, monthly basis over time, this could cause great damage and maybe even a stroke or heart disease. So we have to de-stress. Simple thing, I do it. Breathe in for 3 seconds, breathe out for 4. Do that like 10 times, 3 or 4 times a day. Walk around the block. I used to walk around my dining room table just slowly, and if you walk around slowly, it will calm you down. Even things you eat can create stress. So when we're stressful, we grab whatever's around. But it's better to grab a banana or an apple than chips or cake. Things like that could help you feel better and de-stress you a little bit.
Yeah, it's amazing. And we just oftentimes don't take the time to think about it. I think when we were talking about this in the commercial break, we live in a wonderful moment, the Maha moment, or just the focus on health is, it's hard now not to bump into someone and get into a healthy conversation about getting healthier. How important is the fact that we're talking about health for the first time in a long time?
Well, I think it's great because the thing about blood pressure, and my CEO, Adi Malik, always says that, he says it's measurable. So you will know if you have it and how to bring it down. So the more people know about blood pressure, the more they will know that you can fix this and sort of solve it on your own. So I think that's number one. Number two is I have a blood pressure monitor. It's over there. I'm not going to get it now. I had it for 8 years. It cost me $30. Yep. That monitor might have saved my life because it told me early on, you need to go to the doctor. So little things like this, we can, as a society, grow. Again, there's 120 million people. That's a lot. And probably 20, as I said, to 25 have no idea. But that's why it's called the silent killer, because on Tuesday, you might be fine, and tomorrow you might have a stroke. Because it's called the silent killer, you're not aware. But this damage to your heart is building up over time. But if you have a blood pressure monitor, you could know, hey, I'm good, or I need to go to a doctor and figure this out.
So important, and I know you stress that. Everybody, even if you think you're fine, check your blood pressure. I think that's such great advice.
Oh, absolutely.
It's so important. Ira, I want to thank you for this product personally, because personally, I use it. It's been life-changing for me. I've shaved a few points off my blood pressure numbers. I'm proud of that. And by the way, I'm proud of the recipes I've made. I've got some tonic water things I do with it. So 120 Life is definitely in the Solomon family for the long haul. Great to have you on the show. I want to thank you for what you've done, my friend.
Thank you so much. You have a great day.
Yeah, you as well. Thank you so much, and thanks for your partnership. All right, and to our viewers, if you're over 40 like I am, and it runs in your family, blood pressure that is, and your doctors have never mentioned it to you or have mentioned it, it's time to go to 120Life, 120life.com, and use that promo code JTN. You're going to get 20% off your first order. If your blood pressure doesn't come down, guess what? They're going to give you a full refund. Mine came down, like I said, 6 or 7 points in the first 2 weeks. I was amazed by it. One more time to go check it out. 120Life, 120life.com. Use the promo code JTN. You get 20% off. All right, we're going to come back in a second. We'll wrap up with some closing thoughts. Hopefully we'll have Amanda back tomorrow. Until then, I'll take a quick commercial break.
The world doesn't slow down because you're tired. And weakness gets exposed. That's why the best take Go Pills. Born for military performance, built for high-pressure days when your brain has to move faster than the chaos. This is neurotransmitter support, helping your mind fire clean signals so you can process data fast, decide fast, and stay locked in when it matters. Packed with clinically supported ingredients designed to boost cognitive performance so you stay sharp under pressure. The most badass military in the world uses this kind of energy every day. Now you can too. From training to eliminate America's enemies to smoke-checking terrorists, Go Pills keep the mission fueled. Real-world tested by high-level tactical communities. Now available to you. Greenlight the beast inside. Pop a Go Pill. Scan the QR code or go to buygopills.com and receive 15% off your entire order. Welcome to Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Your quick look at the powerful stories of faith and freedom, inspiring audiences across the nation. Angel Studios presents.
I'm Bo Davidson with this Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Most people know the biblical story of David, the shepherd boy who fought Goliath and became king. Well, Angel Studios has created a new animated film called David that tells the story of Israel's greatest king.
There's a light I've always followed when I'm looking for the way, when I'm searching for the answer. In the moments I'm afraid, there's a whisper in the wind and a story in the sky. When I'm looking for a lantern to illuminate the night. If you want the secret of freedom and feeling alive, you gotta follow the light.
I used to think a mattress was just furniture until I got my Ghost Bed, because Ghost Bed doesn't build mattresses like furniture. They build engineer sleep systems. Their beds are serious health equipment. Beds designed for relief and recovery, not looks, not fluff. Your body should be healing while you sleep, not fighting for comfort. I noticed my difference right away. If you're waking up stiff, tossing and turning, sleeping hot, even reaching for a pain reliever before bed, hoping tonight's going to be different, well, guess what? That's not aging. That could be your mattress talking. And here's another thing I love about Ghost Bed. You get 101 nights to try it at home. If you don't feel the difference, you can send it back risk-free. Ghost Bed is offering my audience their lowest price of the year, plus an extra 10% off. Go to ghostbed.com/justnews and use my promo code JustNews. That's ghostbed.com/justnews. Use that promo code JustNews. Welcome back, America. Just a little bit ago, we learned that the United States Senate will try to have a vote next week on the Save America Act. That's the legislation that would require citizenship checks when you register to vote and voter ID when you vote. This is a major moment for the American people. It will root out whether senators are willing to do what 86% of Americans want done, which is to get these two provisions before the American people. We've got all of that over at justthenews.com. You can go check it out. Meanwhile, I want to have you take a look at a couple of moments that occurred today. Carolyn Levitt was having some fun talking about some of the things that Democrats say about the Save America Act. Have a watch.
There is zero validity to these claims, and I'm glad that you brought them up, because you have the Democrats who have created this myth, and it has been perpetuated, unfortunately, by many in the mainstream media. Let me be very clear. The Save America Act does not prohibit anyone from voting, with the exception of illegal aliens.
How about that? There is a lot of stuff going around. My favorite was the Hawaii senator who suggested that the real goal of the Save America Act was to stop married women from voting. I'm sorry. I think married women from voting, married women can have no problem filing an ID. They do it when they get on a plane. I have great confidence in married women that they can overcome the concerns of the senator. It was one of the many strange things that happened today. Democrats also were on sort of bad behavior when it came to an Iran briefing. Remember Senator Dick Blumenthal, a guy that once claimed he had some Vietnam War record that he didn't actually have? Well, he came out of today's Iran briefing. Take a look at what he said.
I emerged from this briefing as dissatisfied and angry, frankly, as I have from any past briefing in my 15 years in the Senate. I am left with more questions than answers, especially about the cost of the war. My questions have been unanswered.
I just want to point out, I never once heard Senator Dick Blumenthal ever say he was concerned about the cost of the open border when it killed Americans, when billions of dollars of welfare safety nets went out the door to illegal aliens. But now he's suddenly concerned about the cost of a few tomahawks hitting Iran. I'll leave you with that thought. All right, that's all the time we got for you tonight. We'll be back tomorrow night, regular time, 6 p.m. Eastern. In the meantime, we're going to hand the baton to my good friend, Grant Sitfield. In fact, I'm going to go appear on his show in just a few seconds. But until then, God bless you. Have a great night.
The world doesn't slow down because you're tired. and weakness gets exposed. That's why the best take Go Pills. Born for military performance, built for high-pressure days when your brain has to move faster than the chaos. This is neurotransmitter support, helping your mind fire clean signals so you can process data fast, decide fast, and stay locked in when it matters. Packed with clinically supported ingredients designed to boost cognitive performance so you stay sharp under pressure. The most badass military in the world uses this kind of energy every day. Now you can too. From training to eliminate America's enemies to smoke-checking terrorists, Go Pills keep the mission fueled. Real world tested by high-level tactical communities. Now available to you. Greenlight the beast inside. Pop a Go Pill. Scan the QR code or go to buygopills.com and receive 15% off your entire order.
Welcome to Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Your quick look at the powerful stories of faith and freedom, inspiring audiences across the nation. Angel Studios presents.
I'm Bo Davidson with this Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Most people know the biblical story of David, the shepherd boy who fought Goliath and became king. Well, Angel Studios has created a new animated film called David that tells the story of Israel's greatest king.